Welcome to our immigration workshop today. This is for applying for your initial study permit from outside Canada. So a few housekeeping items. We're just going to ask that everybody stays muted, and we will ask questions at the end. This will be recorded, so it will go on our YouTube channel, and you can watch it after if you wish. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay. So we like to start off our presentations with a land acknowledgement. So we recognize the lands on which we gather are covered under the Williams Treaties and rest within the traditional territory of the Mississaugas, a branch of the Anishinaabe Nation, which also includes Algonquin, Chippewa, Odawa, and Ojibwe and Potawatomi. It is through this treaty process that we are able to live, learn, teach, and prosper in this region. We acknowledge with gratitude that this land and the Indigenous peoples who have cared for it and continue to protect Turtle Island and its resources. We commit to the responsibility of reconciliation and the work of increasing awareness and understanding of our shared history. We do so by recognizing the past and working towards a shared future as friends and allies. It is important to note that the acknowledgement statement was created in consultation with the First Peoples Indigenous Center. Okay, so once you have your letter of acceptance, so we're assuming that everybody here has already applied to Durham College and hopefully has received their PAL as well as their fee receipt. So you do need to accept and confirm your offer and pay the amount listed in box 25 of your LOA in order to get your PAL, which is your provincial attestation letter. Most students will need it. Most students will need to pay at least $9,000 to $10,000 to secure their seat, and then the PAL will automatically be issued. So before you apply for your study permit, we would hope that everybody has gone to the canada.ca website and perused the immigration information. It is a lot, but there is a lot of information, the good information that's in there. So you'd go to canada.ca, click on immigration and citizenship, and then click study. And then you see down here, it would say get a study permit, and that would help give you the information that you need. Okay, so further on the immigration website is information about the study permit, and you can see that it costs $150 and processing times do vary by country. They are quite reasonable. A lot of them are sort of between 3 and 12 weeks, which was much better than in the past where it was taking 6 to 8 months to get one. So it is a document that is issued by Canada Border Service Agency, which you get when you enter the country. So when you're applying, you apply for your study permit and your entry visa. If your entry visa is approved, then you'd make arrangements to come to Canada and you would receive your study permit at the border. So when you're applying for your initial study permit, we would encourage you to use BorderPass, which I've been joined by Eli, who is our BorderPass partner. And they will help you step by step through the process. And in the email that you received, your letter of acceptance, it would have given you more information about BorderPass. And we highly recommend that you use their service. So what do you need to include with your application? One of the reasons why we recommend BorderPass is because IRCC only has about 8 to 15 minutes to go through your application. So you need to make it as concise and user-friendly for IRCC as possible. So you need your letter of acceptance, your PAL, of course, your passport, and your proof of financial support and the ability to pay, including all sources. And for your very first year, you need at least almost 24,000 Canadian dollars, plus your tuition fees and your traveling expenses for the first year. You also need a robust but clear study plan, which is often called an SOP or letter of explanation. And this needs to show that your ties to the home country, how you're going to use your past career with your proposed education for a great career back home, or if you're just coming out of high school, how you're going to, use this career that you're wanting to get and do something back home, and that you want to be in Canada as a temporary resident. So I'm going to turn it over to Eli. Hopefully he is, yep, he's got all the powers, and he is going to, actually, hold on, I think I have a couple more. We've got a few more slides with BorderPass and what they do. So they also do immigration guidance amongst a few other items on their website. And this is at no additional cost to Durham College because it's already included in your fees. So now here's where Eli's going to go through the application with you together. So I'm going to stop sharing. And I think, Eli, you can start sharing.
Excellent. Thank you, Sarah. Good morning. And hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're joining from. My name is Eli. I am one of the representatives at BorderPass, and Sarah did an excellent job of introducing how the platform works. But essentially, through a partnership with Durham College, you get access to our platform, and you get to have your application and lawyer reviewed by a Canadian immigration to hopefully get you a study permit approval for your term start date at Durham. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Give me one sec. All right. So you should be able to see my screen now. Give me one second, hide this. All right, so essentially what BorderPass is, again, just to reiterate, so it's a guided application platform. So we're basically going to make it easier for you to submit a higher quality application. If you haven't already, applying by yourself directly through the IRCC platform can sometimes be a bit confusing and may not be easy to use, and some of the requirements aren't listed. And so our lawyers who made our platform wanted to make this process easier for you. We show you all the application requirements, the documents that are required, and if there are any documents that might make your application or get it refused or basically violate the terms of what IRCC is looking for in terms of requirements, we have some platform flags to basically catch those errors before you submit. And then after the whole process of uploading your documents, building your statement of purpose, a lawyer is going to actually look at your application as a Durham College student. And as we briefly mentioned, Sarah and I, that we'll be focusing on our study permit application journey today, but BorderPass isn't here just to help you with that. We want to help you with any immigration-related questions and applications you need. So we've actually helped quite a few Durham College students with study permit extensions, with PGWPs, so work permits for when you graduate, as well as express entry PR, and a whole host of other applications, even visitor visas for your parents to visit you for graduation, and other application types like that as well. So most of you will be focusing on the study permit to come and study at Durham College, which is great, but we want to support you throughout your entire journey when it comes to anything immigration related. The basic requirements for studying in Canada, I did hear that Sarah mentioned a little bit of it as I joined the session, but essentially, when we think about some of the reasons that applications get refused, the two main reasons are related to the proof of funds and what we call the intent to remain. So IRCC needs to see where your funds are coming from, where they are in your accounts, but also the source of those funds. Are they from salary from working? Are they from your parents or other people that are supporting you? They need to know if that money is legitimate and that you have access to it, and that you can actually cover your first year tuition as well as $22,895 in living expenses. So IRCC does need to see that. And sometimes people submit documents, but they aren't really clear or they don't have an explanation for where the funds came from. And we do see a lot of refusals for that. So BorderPass has some tips on how you can address those proactively. You have to obey the law. You cannot have a criminal record, and depending on where you're applying from or the type of program, you may need a police certificate as well as a medical exam. BorderPass will ask you all the necessary questions for that, but you do need to prove to an officer that you will leave Canada when your study permit expires. This is more related to that reason for refusal that we see called intent to remain. So I totally understand if you want to come to Durham College to study for your program and you want to live and work in Canada, that's totally fine. We have many students when they graduate that they get their work permit and they start applying for PR and building their experience in Canada. But for the purpose of actually issuing your study permit, IRCC technically needs to see that you're just coming to Canada to study and you're going to take this education experience and return to your home country. So that may change when you're ready to graduate, but for the purpose of issuing your study permit to come study, these are the types of things you need to think about. And BorderPass, I'll show you in a second how we make that very clear for you to submit documents to strengthen your case to study here. Once you get an approval for your study permit, you have to maintain the compliance conditions. So when you're working in Canada, you have to basically adhere to the rules of how many hours you can work, where you can work, and some other conditions as well that would be listed on your study permit. But we're here to help answer any questions you may have along the way. These are the types of warnings, or what we call guardrails, that we have in BorderPass to help you stay connected and understanding of what documents might be triggered for review. So sometimes people will include documents that are not in English or French, and you might have heard from a friend that they submitted those documents to IRCC, which is totally fine, and they got approved. That may be the case, but it is at IRCC's discretion to refuse documents if they're not in English or French. So we warn you about that when you try to upload those documents. If you try to upload documents that are out of date, so for bank statements, they need to be the last 4 months at minimum. If you try to update documents that are from the last 6 to 2 months, but not the most recent 2 months, these are the types of warnings we have as well. And also lump sum deposits. So we think about in BorderPass, when you have documents like your bank statements, where a lot of money is being deposited into your account, you do need to explain where that money is coming from. And a lot of people don't do that and they get refused because IRCC doesn't necessarily think that's legitimate money that you have access to. So we warn you and provide instructions on how to best address that in your application. So with that being said, I am going to jump into our student demo for BorderPass. So as Sarah mentioned, there will be a link for you to click on to be redirected to the BorderPass Durham portal. You can also just search for BorderPass or Google it and get started and then click Durham College or type in Durham College here. And it'll be the same link that was sent to you via email in your package, welcoming you to Durham College. You'll put in your student number as well as your name and your email. As well as your phone number. So the reason we ask for your phone number is because sometimes there are really important decisions and updates to your application that we need you to either take action on or be aware of before you travel. And we all get a lot of emails. So if we have your phone number, we can send you WhatsApp notifications for you to see those things and respond to them if you need to from IRCC. Once you create your account, you'll see this Welcome to BorderPass screen. You'll see the Durham College logo. You can click Get Started and you'll see Apply for a Study Permit. So if I click on that, the first thing you'll see is choose a language. So in English or French, you can use their site. You can also use a site translator if you have it for your browser that is supported by our application. And with many of our application types, we do start with a questionnaire. We want to learn more about you, but also make you understand and guide you in the right direction for your study permit application. So instead of the IRCC government portal, you get this guided application flow so we can learn about you and show you everything you need to see, not just showing you everything all at once and then making you figure it out. So the first question is, are you working with an agent? If you say yes, you can see the list of agents that we work with at BorderPass. You can also type in the word other if you'd like. This is just for us to know if you are working with one of our agent partners, we can let them know that you're working with us as well. And then we ask you some questions about your prior education history. So when did you finish your studies? How does your Canadian program relate to your prior work or studies? And then we also ask you to select your highest level of education completed or in progress as well. The reason we ask you these types of questions is if you're already in Canada and you came to Canada on a study permit for your high school education, that's a different type of application than it is, for example, if you're still in Nigeria or India and somewhere outside of Canada and applying to study in Canada for the first time as part of your Durham College study experience. So we ask you these questions to guide you in that direct flow to make sure you're not making any mistakes and to minimize confusion as well. We then ask you to confirm where you live now and have legal status, and we ask you to select your employment status in the country where you live as well. We'll then ask you questions about your family. And the reason we do this, the first question being, select your marital status. If you are married or in a relationship and you want to bring your spouse to Canada, you're more than welcome to do that. You can include them on your application. Durham College covers the fees for you as a single applicant. So if you do add your spouse and or children, there are additional fees for you to use your application with BorderPass. But as a solo applicant, it's all covered. You only pay the government fees. And you can also see any estimated fees very early on in the process. So I'm going to go ahead and click I do not want to wish or apply for. I'm just going to select that I'm single. Next, we're going to ask you for some initial documents. So at this stage, we'll ask you for your passport and your letter of acceptance that Durham College would have given to you once you've completed, I believe, an initial deposit and you get that letter of acceptance. And then we'll also ask you, confirming again if you have a current permit. For example, if you studied here in high school and you already have that, we just want to make sure you're not making any mistakes. So I'm going to go ahead and auto upload some of these documents here. Give me a sec. Excellent. So I've auto uploaded the documents. You would manually upload them. But then we get to this summary screen here. There are some additional questions we'll ask, like where you will return to after your studies. Have you ever had any previous visa refusals? Have you ever stayed in Canada without permission? Just some questions about legality concerns that our lawyers need to see. Criminal history, medical history, and then we also ask you to confirm the amount of money you have. So we show you, based on your tuition amount, you need to show proof of funds for this amount. We want you to know how much that will be. And then we'll show you, basically ask you and get you to confirm how much funds do you have access to, and you'll have a chance to upload those documents later. And these can be financial supporter documents, your bank account documents, things like that as well. So I'm going to skip right to the end. Give me a sec. All right, so you can click on any question to return back to it to make the changes. You can confirm the info is correct and up to date, click confirm and submit. And from here, you'll see a couple of things. You'll first see on the right-hand side, the application progress. So we have a checklist of as you make progress in your application, this is exactly how you can do that and go through that process. We'll also show you the projected fees for you. So normally, if you weren't attending Durham College, we would charge around $300 to $400 for you to use BorderPass. This fee is completely waived and covered by Durham College. You would only pay these government fees that you would have to pay even if you didn't use BorderPass. So this is the government fees for the application and for biometrics if you need it, and that's all you'll pay to use BorderPass as a single applicant for your study permit application. I'm going to go ahead and plug in some information here. I'm going to click confirm payment. And from there, we'll give it a sec. Payment was successful. It shows me I've completed my payment. And here's the next step. So it'll show me the expected processing date for an applicant from where I'm applying from. So you can start to think about if you need to defer an intake or you need to understand when you will get a decision. We want to show you this information as soon as possible for you. The next step for us is to upload our preliminary documents. So I'm going to go ahead and click prepare my documents. And so this is how BorderPass is structured for you. Anything that's marked as required, you're not able to proceed by clicking continue until you upload all of the required documents. And we show you exactly what's required here step by step so you know what to upload. So at this stage, we'll ask for your LOA and passport if you haven't uploaded it already. And we'll also ask you for a digital photo and your proof of finances, transcript information, as well as client information. You're probably going to spend the most amount of time on these two sections here, the proof of finances and the client information. If we look at the proof of finances here, this is where you're going to start uploading your documents to show the funds that you have available to you. Remember, we show you the minimum required amount here, and we have this little bar graph here as well. So as you start uploading documents, once you hit that minimum, you'll be able to proceed in BorderPass. There are a lot of different documents you can use to submit for your application, and we show you all the different types of documents you could use. A tuition payment receipt, especially if you've paid that $9,000 to $10,000 required by Durham College to get your LOA and PAL, that's a great example of funds that can be used because it's looking to cover your first year tuition or part of it. So you can upload that document here. Bank statements, we give you all of the instructions for your bank statements. You would click upload and upload those as well. And there are a variety of other documents like scholarships, education loans, investment account statements that you can use to support your finances to show that you have enough money to stay. You don't have to upload one type of document for each document header here. You just need to upload the total number of documents that will get you to this minimum. Obviously, if you have more than the minimum, please provide it. The more the better, but you do need to meet this minimum threshold. I would imagine most of you will probably have a financial supporter, so parents, relatives that'll be helping you financially. So you can see if you scroll to the bottom, you'll see Add Financial Supporter here. So you can click Supporter. And so let's say my brother's name is John, and we have the same last name, Samersing, and I select that he is my brother. I can click Add Supporter. And so now I'll see his name here. So John Samersing is my supporter. And then BorderPass will show me exactly what I need to provide to add him as a supporter. So I need his passport or national ID. I need a questionnaire of what he will cover so we understand what he's helping you with, as well as a proof of relationship. We have the same parents, so I can provide our birth certificates to show that. The stronger evidence for who that financial supporter is, the better. And that's why we asked for these documents so that IRCC knows this is a legitimate supporter. So if it's a birth certificate, a booklet, even a photograph, anything that proves this to some extent is better than nothing. If you don't have any documents to show your relation to your supporter, you can click this here, but we highly recommend that you include one if you have it. So for now, I'm going to go ahead and remove him as a supporter, and I'm going to go back and auto upload some documents here. It's just going to take a second for us here. All right, so everything is marked as completed. So I've uploaded all of my documents. Anything is flagged as required. So my biometrics, there's a warning stating that my biometrics will only be issued to the expiry of my permit or my passport. So I can update biometrics and input that information. We have a lot of these warnings to call out things to make sure that you're aware as well. Now, if we go back to the proof of finances section, you'll see that I've uploaded a bank statement for 130,000. And so I've met that minimum. The bar is green. I'm good to go. If there's any warnings, I can see the warnings here. It'll say you have 2 warnings in your documents. View the source of funds, click the bank statement or hover over the warning error, and it shows me the warnings. I can click edit. And when you upload any documents, this screen will always come up, and you can make sure that everything looks correct in terms of what we are reading from the document you uploaded. So you can see all that information here as well. So I'm going to go back here, click cancel, and I see everything's marked as completed, so I can move on to the next section. Before I do that, one of the other sections here is client information. So when we talked about that refusal reason that we see for intent to remain, we ask you if you have any documents about your resume, any additional documents about your family, ownership, property documents, things that show that you have ties to your home country to return. We'll ask for that here. And we'll also generate a document for you based on the family members you have back home. So we'll ask for their IDs because when an IRCC officer looks at your application through BorderPass, they'll see that you have your parents back home or maybe siblings back home or even maybe a spouse back home, which is a better opportunity for you to prove that you have an intent to return to your home country after completing your studies. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and click continue. And these are the types of warnings we have. So I just uploaded a bank statement. I didn't upload any other documents explaining where those funds came from and how I have those funds. So we'll warn you about things like that because we see refusals related to that. IRCC does not warn you about any documents. They only warn you when you get refused. So we try to proactively warn you and make sure you're aware of what concerns we have about your application. I'm going to go ahead and click continue. And you can see there are some recommendations based on when we think you'll get a decision from IRCC. So you can always upload or request a new LOA for a deferral and view your school's deferral policy as well. These are some of the updates we have in BorderPass to make it easy for you to understand your position and your situation to apply for your study permit. The next step is to complete the assessment. So we're going to ask some additional questions again about where you were born, where your parents were born, and just general questions about visa refusals and everything related to that. You'll finish answering those questions. And then from there, we will move on to the next step of uploading documents. So if you go ahead to upload documents, go to the document vault. Everything you've uploaded before remains completed and uploaded here. So your passport, your LOA, your finances, we've already uploaded all of that, which is great. It's at this stage you'll upload your provincial attestation letter. So that's the PAL letter that Sarah was mentioning earlier that Durham College will issue to you. And you'll also complete an assessment of whether you need a medical exam and where you need to complete it. So we'll ask you about where you live, and we'll ask you where you're planning to work. And then we'll give you the options on how best to proceed with completing your medical exam or waiting for the letter and things of that nature as well. One of our students' favorite features, if you've ever applied for a study permit or any type of application in Canada before, you usually have to download government forms. So this is an example of one, an IMM 5709. Download it from the website, from the government. Then you have to use Adobe Acrobat to open the document, fill in the information and things like that. And it can be very tedious and not easy to use. So we rebuilt the forms directly in BorderPass. So you don't have to download and upload any forms anymore. You can see the entire form built out here, and it's way easier to use. And the great thing is if you've answered questions in some of the assessments or questions we've had, they're pre-filled for you here. So you don't have to answer them again. And that's part of the reason we collected all that information, is to make this form filling process even easier for you as well. So I'm going to go ahead and auto upload some of those documents. Oops. Let's give this a sec here. All right, so everything is showing as completed. My form is completed as well. I'm going to click continue. And now there's 2 steps left for us before we submit the application to a lawyer for review, and that's to build our statement of purpose and review it. So the statement of purpose is a very important study document, and this basically is your chance to tell your story of why you want to study at Durham College. So you'll go ahead and click build your statement, and we're basically going to ask you question by question things about your study journey and basically build this document for you based on your answers and your experience in a way that's a really concise, organized document. Sometimes I see students will go to ChatGPT and just dump in a lot of information and get the document that way. It's not the most concise and the easiest for IRCC. We build it in a much more organized process for you and for the IRCC to review your application. So the first question we'll ask you is clearly state your step-by-step career plan upon completing your Canadian study program and returning to your home country. We give some more information here and we show you an example. And so you would answer this question and you would click review my answer in the bottom. Then BorderPass will look at it, review it, and see if there's any feedback. And if there's any suggested feedback, you'll see it here and you can make those changes up top and continue to the next question. So the next question is list the prospective companies you want to work for. So I will put them in and I would click review my answer. And here's where I'll get some additional feedback. So in this case, the feedback states that these companies are primarily located in the United States. It wouldn't align that well with a Canadian study permit application. So that's the type of feedback you get for every one of these questions. For the sake of time, I'm going to autofill these answers. So if I go to continue to your application, I've completed all of those questions. Depending on the type of applicant you are, there are 10 to 15 questions you'll need to answer, and then you'll get the chance to click review your statement. And from there, you can click, you acknowledge the terms. You can now review and make changes. So if I click get started, BorderPass is now going to show you each of the sections one by one, and you'll be able to input your feedback there as well. So the first part is the introduction, and this is the section that's been generated, and I'm reading this. And my job now is to basically go through and find any errors or suggest any improvements. So it says, I'm writing to express my interest in applying for a Canadian study permit to attend Centennial College in Ottawa, Ontario, which is a mistake. Centennial is not in Ottawa, it is in Toronto. So I can click Make Corrections. I can type in change. So this is one thing I want to change. And I'm reading, and it says skill set in order to reach my career goals. So that might be too vague, and I want to explain what my career goals are. So I also want to change that sentence. I'll then type in change to Centennial College in Toronto, Ontario. And in order to reach my career goals of becoming a doctor and opening a family clinic in my hometown of Kerala. I'll click Generate Revised Version. BorderPass will read the feedback and adjust this section, and I'll show you the changes that you can see here. Then you can click Done, click Yeah, and approve this section with revisions. You'll then go through and basically do that same process for each section. So this is the next section, which is my plan. You would approve that section, my objectives, my interest in the field, my inspirations in the field, so you can make any corrections and move forward and make changes as necessary. Why you chose this program, you understand that we're now asking you questions about these things because it's really important to explain why you want to study at Durham College. So I would go ahead and approve all of the sections, and I get one last chance to review everything so I can see what was drafted, the changes I requested, if any. But essentially, you'll see the section on the left that's been generated, and you'll see the questions on the right that were answered by you and how we took that in and made that section. So you can essentially read through, make sure everything looks good, and you can scroll to the bottom. If you want to return back to the last section, you can. But you can also confirm that the information is correct and up to date. Click confirm, and once it's done, you'll see next step is submit for lawyer review. You'll sign the use of rep form, essentially stating that BorderPass lawyers are going to act as your legal representative, and you'll click I agree. And then you'll see any items you need to review, you can do, but then from there, you'll be able to submit for lawyer review once you manage any errors or concerns with your application. And then from there, the lawyers will review it. If it looks good, they'll submit directly to IRCC. If there's any documents or requirements they need after reviewing, you'll get an email and you can address those directly. But that is pretty much the BorderPass application process. Upload your documents, answer some questions, complete the statement of purpose, lawyer reviews it, and then hopefully we can get you an approval, and you'll be able to see any updates from IRCC once it's in IRCC processing here as well. Some other things to keep in mind, while we very much enjoy working with our friends at Durham College as our colleagues in this partnership, they don't know some of the technical parts of using BorderPass and can't see everything that you see in your account. So if you run into any issues, you can click on the Applications tab and you'll see this little chatbot on the right. So let BorderPass guide you, where you can ask really simple questions like, how many days do I have to apply for PGWP? So certain simple questions like that, our chatbot is trained on answering. So we'll just give it a few seconds for it to answer and review your question. But this will primarily be the place where you actually get support from BorderPass. So we'll wait for a second for it to generate the answer here. Typically it would be a lot sooner than this, but I am in our testing environment, so it might be a little slow while our team makes changes. But there's some additional information about that. You can also see the option to create a support ticket. So if you type in the word create a support ticket, this is how you can basically get in touch with our human support team, and they can help you with uploading documents. They can help with answering questions. If you have like a legal question, you want a lawyer to answer something, like a really simple one, this is the way that you can get in touch with our team. And once the ticket was created, in this case, we're in our testing environment, so you can't see it, but you would get the link and you would see the ticket that you created under the briefcase tab. That's what we call our support messaging system. And from there, you would see all of your active support cases, and our team would be able to respond to you instantly from there. If for whatever reason you actually need to meet with a lawyer one-on-one to discuss the scenario or questions or issues that you have with your immigration situation, you click consult a lawyer here, and you can actually book a personal consultation. This is completely optional, and there is a fee for it. It's around $100 plus tax, but that's way cheaper than the market rate for meeting a Canadian immigration lawyer. And so you can ask them any questions you have about your study permit, maybe PR, your work permit, for your spouse and your children and your family. They are more than welcome to get on a call with you and have that consultation. So we're here to support you. There's a lot of different tools in BorderPass available to you, but for the purpose of your study permit application, you don't pay any additional fees than the government fees, and you get a way more organized process for applying for your study permit application. So I know that's a lot of information. So give me one sec. Come back to the tab here. I think there's an opportunity for us to answer any questions as well. And I know we've been recording it. So if anybody has any questions about BorderPass or your study permit, I'd be happy to answer them as well.
And we're just going to do that. We've got a few more slides, and then we'll stop
Sure.
the recording so that the questions don't go live. So I did look up the processing times by country. So if you are coming to us for September 2026, I do hope that you have already applied for your study permit application. There are some countries that are very quick, China and Ghana, for example, 30 weeks, because you do need to be in Canada before classes start, which is the 8th of September. And so if you're coming for future semesters, you've got a bit more time. So you can always check your application status, either through the BorderPass app if you've done that, or if you did not, through the immigration application website. And then we're going to assume that you've been approved. It's fantastic. You've got your ticket and you're going to come to Canada. So if you've received an email with your approval letter and it's your passport has to be sent for stamping, that's what a lot of students say. So that's where if you need an ETA or a TRV, the TRV, that's the sticker that they put in your passport. It's not your study permit. It is your entry visa. And you want to arrive in Canada about 3 to 4 weeks before classes begin. You don't have to. You can arrive the day classes begin if you wish. It depends on the type of person. Some people are, I will make it there, no problem. Others are, I need to plan and more organized. So all of your documentation, including your approval letter, to show CBSA. So CBSA is our Canadian service agents. The visa allows you to knock on the door and say, hi, can I come in? And CBSA will make the decision whether you're allowed to come in or not. I don't think we've ever had anybody refused, but you do have to answer any of the questions CBSA asks, and that's not true. We did have one student turned around because CBSA asked him a few simple questions and the student couldn't answer them. So they said, for example, what school are you going to study? He couldn't answer that. They could ask you that. They could ask you, how long are you going to be here for? What countries did you travel through? CBSA can ask you whatever question they want. They can ask you what you had for lunch on the plane if they wanted to. So if you applied for a co-op work permit, because right now on the immigration website, it is still an option, although you don't technically need one, your TRV should technically be an SW class. So this is what the TRV looks like. It's, as I said, it's a sticker that goes in your passport. It's not your study permit, and it is allowed to expire while you're in Canada. Your study permit is not. So once it's the expiry date is your deadline to come into Canada. So you have a couple of dates that you need to keep in mind. Once you're in Canada, the expiry date of your TRV should be the same as your study permit, and they will expire. Your TRV can, as I said, can expire while you're in Canada. Your study permit cannot. And most TRVs are multiple entry visas, which means you can come and go as long as it's valid. So here's an example of a study permit. So it's a little old. I couldn't find that version. They have changed them a little bit, but essentially it's got your name, your country, your gender, the date of the issuing, and the date of the expiry. So these are important that you check these when you receive it, because the people entering the information are human and sometimes they transpose numbers. So we've had students that have had a study permit issued for 3 months instead of whatever time it needed to be. And so if you notice, so for example, the expiry date is incorrect. So if it's supposed to be until, let's say August 2028, and it says something 2018, then you can mention it to the person. Just go, I think there's a mistake. You also need to know that expiry date, put it in your phone about 6 months before to extend it. Here under institution name, it should say Durham College because that's who you're coming to, and then it'll have conditions. So the conditions should be on it that you're allowed to work on or off campus related to R186. It should also have, at the bottom, it should also have something if you need a medical or anything else like that. All of the conditions will be listed on there. So as a study permit holder, you do have certain responsibilities, and the number one is to be actively pursuing your studies. So this means going to class, this means handing in assignments, proving that, because if down the road, if immigration says prove that you're actively pursuing your studies, you can show an enrollment letter, which says that you are in school, but then you'd also show transcripts, which show, we would assume, if you pass classes, that you are actively pursuing your studies. You also have to maintain full-time status with very few exceptions, and you need to be showing reasonable progress towards graduating. So not everybody passes everything the first time, and that's fine. But if you failed 2 straight semesters of the same course, then perhaps there's something else that we need to chat about. So you do need to be enrolled at the DLI, which is the institution that's on your letter of acceptance, the one that's on your study permit, and you need to change your study permit if you change institutions. You also have to stop studying if you no longer meet the requirements of being a student. You have to leave Canada when your study permit expires, and also if your study permit becomes invalid. So if you stop studying and at that date, and you decide I'm not going to go to class anymore, your study permit becomes invalid, and in order to come back to school, you do need a new one. So that means you need to leave Canada or switch to a visitor's visa. You can come see us if you've got any questions on that. We also ask that you do not share any photos of your study permit on social media or websites, because that's how you can be a victim of fraud. So if your study permit expires, you have to stop studying immediately, and you only have 90 days to apply to restore your status. So this is, your classes go until April 2028, but you didn't notice that your study permit expired December 2027, and it's now January 2028. So this means you can't attend classes, and depending on your program, it could mean an entire year of delay, which means a lot of money. And if you don't follow the immigration rules, then they may ask you to leave Canada or do a removal or an exclusion order on you. And it can and probably will affect any of your other future IRCC applications. And it's expensive. It's almost $400 to apply to restore your status. Much easier to put the date in your phone with a reminder 6 months beforehand. So a little bit on the co-op work permit, which as of April 1st, most students no longer need a co-op work permit. As long as you have one of the conditions on your study permit that allows you to work, that will cover you for your placement, co-op, work integrated learning, etc. If you don't have these on your condition study permit, you do need to apply to amend your study permit, and you need that new study permit before you can start doing your placement. So that's a little bit of a different thing. So these are the conditions that should be on your study permit. They will allow you to both work on or off campus, as well as doing any placement that you currently have. All right, if you've got any questions, Phil's my partner in crime, the 2 ISAs, we are here to help you. We have drop-in sessions every Tuesday morning at 9:30, which are very similar to this, and Thursdays at 3 p.m. And you can always reach us by our contact. Stop sharing. There we go. And I'm going to stop recording. Oh, I did the wrong thing.